from my Instagram comments, if that tells you anything.
She tried to gloat that her account had always been located in America, even though, of course, it's possible to be an Israeli spy without being located in Israel.
See additional Epstein files released?
You know what? If people stop calling me a spy...
She's claiming that she began building a program or a data set to determine how anyone could think that she's a honeypot. Now, the obvious answer is because they have eyes, right?
Mattel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, works for PragerU, which is a media company that supposedly espouses American values, except for the fact that it is run by a former Israeli military.
This didn't just escalate. It turned into something much bigger overnight. What started as quiet online discussion suddenly pulled in names like Erika Kirk and Alexis Wilkins, all circling back to Candace Owens. Claims began spreading about possible foreign influence, along with calls to remove her podcast. But then everything shifted. Candace didn't step back. She pushed forward, responding with what she calls receipts. And just like that, the attention moved away from her and onto someone else. But that's where things start to get interesting. Alexis Wilkins isn't just a music figure, and that's exactly why people began looking closer. Public information points to connections within defense-related circles, along with past work in communications tied to someone with a military intelligence background.
We don't go to war against Iran, which would be a profound mistake for our country. So that's a really, really important thing. Drill, baby, drill domestically. Peace in the Middle East, peace with Russia, Ukraine. You'll see gas prices go down to $30 a barrel. Charlie, what does that mean? $1.75 a gallon. That's what it means, okay?
From there, her path runs through platforms like PragerU and TPUSA, eventually leading to her own brand. For some, that's a clear career path. For others, it's enough to raise eyebrows. And then there's the timing. Her relationship with Kash Patel became public right as his profile was rising toward a major federal role. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's just timing. But it's the kind of overlap that gets people paying attention.
Sort of being the honeypot.
For people to act like there's not enough information out there about me to glean a real conclusion on all of this kind of vigilante research, it's bizarre.
Now the stakes are higher. Alexis has suggested there could be a broader international angle involving Candace Owens, though those claims remain unverified. At the same time, Candace is pushing back with her own version, challenging the narrative directly. Two completely different sides. And as more attention builds, the pressure is only going to increase. This didn't come out of nowhere. It had been building quietly for months. Alexis Wilkins, publicly linked to Kash Patel, was already surrounded by growing online speculation.
AI protecting the greatest, the largest scale in human history.
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't.
But instead of shutting it down directly, she made a move that changed everything. That's when the story took a sharp turn. She began calling out Major E, figures like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Joe Kent, and Michael Flynn. And that's where things stopped being simple. Alexis released a 13-part thread laying out her claims, pointing to what she described as a coordinated network tied to foreign influence. She suggested those names were connected, and even said similar tactics had been used against her personally. These are serious claims, but as of now, they remain unverified. What really caught attention, though, was how she explained it.
The United States and allied intel sources fear a large-scale attack by Iran against Israel is imminent and could be coming in days. The report, which is based on anonymous sources, suggested that Iran will strike either government or military targets inside Israel using drones or high-precision.
Alexis said she spent months teaching herself to build tools that could track and expose this kind of activity. But she didn't show how those tools actually work, or what they clearly prove. And that gap is where the biggest question started to grow. Where's the evidence? She went even further, arguing that certain labels used against her online were part of a deliberate effort to isolate someone close to a government figure. She also defended Erika Kirk, saying she had been unfairly targeted. According to Alexis, the bigger picture is about undermining trust within political circles, a massive claim, and the more it spreads, the more attention it pulls back to one place: her.
Sleeper cells here that are planning these horrible attacks.
only people who are Jewish, who are have an Israeli passport and an American passport are the bad guys is frankly an anti-Semitic statement. Every time you blame the Jew for something that literally everybody else does, you have to ask yourself, am I being an anti-Semite? Like, why would you single out one group of people that is doing exactly the same thing that everybody else does? So this dual loyalty thing is complete.
So now the question gets sharper. Who exactly is Alexis Wilkins, and why does everything keep pointing back to her? Her claims don't describe something small. They point to a much larger system involving powerful institutions. And that's where people start to pause. Because if that's true, how did she reach those conclusions in the first place? Candace Owens didn't wait around. She responded quickly, calling the theory hard to believe, and publicly inviting Alexis onto her show to explain everything directly. She even said it would be an honor to hear more about what Alexis described as a major discovery.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein pick these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
That moment put Alexis in a position to clarify everything, but no public response followed. And that silence only made more people pay attention. Then, the pressure increased. In a follow-up, Candace questioned why these narratives about Alexis keep spreading, hinting there may be reasons people remain skeptical. That shift changed the tone. This wasn't just online chatter anymore. It was turning into real scrutiny. And then there's the timeline. Reports suggest Alexis was in her mid-20s when her relationship with Kash Patel became public, after they reportedly met at a public event months earlier. Around that same time, her visibility began rising fast. Maybe it's just timing, or maybe it's something people are still trying to figure out. Because at first glance, it looks simple, but the deeper you look, the harder it is to ignore that her connection to politics didn't start recently. It's been there for a while, and this is where things get even more revealing.
Would you like to see additional Epstein files released?
You know what? If people stop calling me a spy, absolutely.
Before gaining wider attention, Alexis Wilkins worked as a press secretary for Abraham Hamada, a political figure with a background in military intelligence. Her name has also been linked to platforms like PragerU, The Daily Wire, and Turning Point USA, all spaces with significant reach. That combination alone is enough to make people look twice. Then the situation escalated again. Political activist Sam Parker publicly questioned those connections, suggesting they pointed to something deeper. Alexis responded directly, saying she doesn't work for those organizations but has created content for them. But instead of closing the discussion, that distinction seemed to spark even more debate. Because this is where opinions split. For some, creating content doesn't mean formal affiliation. For others, it raises questions about how those relationships actually function behind the scenes. And once that conversation started, it spread fast. There's another layer too. Alexis hosts her own show on Rumble, where she talks about policy and current events. In one segment, she raised concerns about potential security threats in the US, claims that remain unverified but still drew attention. That led to a bigger question. How is she getting this information, and why bring it up publicly now? And then the timeline comes back into focus. Some online discussions point out that Alexis has spoken on certain issues before they fully unfolded. Whether that's coincidence or something else is unclear, but it's enough to keep people watching, and as more attention builds, the focus keeps circling back to one connection: Kash Patel. Before his relationship with Alexis Wilkins became public, Kash Patel had been very clear about one thing. He consistently pushed for more transparency around the Epstein files. But then something appeared to change. As his personal life became more visible and his public role expanded, his tone seemed to shift, including statements suggesting there was no confirmed evidence of a broader network. That contrast didn't go unnoticed, and for many, it stood out. And that's where attention started turning back to Alexis. People began looking at her public presence and noticed something missing. There's no clear record of her directly addressing the Epstein topic. That absence quickly became part of the conversation. Then came a moment that stood out even more. During an interview, when asked about releasing additional information, she reportedly laughed and suggested it could happen, but tied it to how she's being portrayed online. Instead of clarifying anything, that response only added more uncertainty. And that's where everything lands. Shifting positions, unanswered questions, and growing attention from all sides. The story isn't slowing down. If anything, it's building. And the more people look into it, the more one thing becomes clear: this isn't over yet.